You're mine now. You belong to me. Today we're going to play a new fun game.
Hello and welcome to the Twin Peaks podcast. My name's Dan.
My name's Nicole.
This is our On the Water episode. We're going to be talking about Waterworld and the Perfect Storm. After that, Nicole, you're choosing the theme and we're going to pick our films to watch for the next episode. The final section is Stitch Up. I had to watch Fateful Findings and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And then we announce the results of the poll next week. Or no, we announce them this week, but it's for next week's poll. Next week's review. Fuck it, I don't know what's going on. That'll do. I'm not doing that intro again. Before we get to any of that, we talk about anything we want.
I've been very busy, but I don't have anything to talk about, anything exciting to talk about.
You mean it's all confidential?
Yes and no, maybe.
All right, very cryptic.
What about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I've just told you my poo story, which I can't say on the podcast. I can't talk about it on the podcast, but you found it very funny.
I almost shat myself hearing it.
That would have been another poo story. It would have been a double poo story. We could have been telling that till the day we died.
I've got a really funny poo story, but I'm not going to share it online.
God, we've already dragged this right down to the gutter, haven't we? Immediately. It's my fault.
That's all right.
Oh, all right. So, I mean, apart from that wonderful story that I told you earlier, I've not got much to update on other than my recently watched films, really. So this week I've caught a few films. I watched The Summer of '84, which is like a throwback 80s horror type. It's fairly recent. It's like a throwback horror synthwave. It's all right. It's not bad. I watched a film called Mayhem, which is a pretty silly horror comedy set in an office block building. Had a lot of fun with that. Avengers Infinity War. K9. I watched K9, film that I picked for our animals theme. Then I watched Hatchet, The Fall, a film called The Boat. Because of our On the Water theme, I decided to watch a boat film. It was just on Amazon. It was just one of those movies we'll think you'll like. And it was just set on a boat and it had one dude in it. And he got on his fishing boat and he found this abandoned boat and he got on that boat. And then the boat he just stayed on the boat for the rest of the film. Got locked in the toilet for a bit.
More toilet talk.
More toilet talk, yeah. I wish that was me. I wish I'd got locked in a toilet. Tell you.
Oh, God.
The shame. Last year, my goal was to watch 300 movies. And I did that. I watched 300, but I watched my 300th film on New Year's Eve. I timed it perfectly and I managed to watch Terminator 2. My 300th film last year. This year I've hit the 300 in October because of world shutdown. And the other day I ordered, I couldn't handle it anymore. I've been wanting to order it for ages, but I ordered Space Truckers on Blu-ray. Just a favourite of mine. It's a great film. It's so good. I haven't seen it for years and I used to own it on VHS. So I've been really dying to get my hands on this Blu-ray and it finally arrived. So I made that my 300th film. So I managed to sit down and watch that yesterday and it was glorious. It's just as much fun as I remember. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's so cheesy. Dennis Hopper as a good guy in the 90s, which was a bit unusual, and another Dennis Hopper film because Dennis Hopper was in Waterworld, which we're talking about a bit later. So I've been hoppering all over the place this week. I've been getting a lot of Hopper inside me.
Is that 300 films including like rewatches, right?
Yes, including rewatches.
Yeah, I'm just making sure.
This year the goal is to get to 365.
66.
Yes.
Leap year this year. I'm up to 277 at the moment, and that's not rewatches.
But yeah, I watched Space Truckers and it's got Charles Dance in it and killer robots and space pirates. Also applicable to underwater in a way. It's pirates. It's great. It's got probably my favourite piece of dialogue ever committed to film, and it's Dennis Hopper when he notices someone trying to steal his truck because they're space truckers. They drive trucks in space and they deliver cargo. I don't know if you got that, but when he finds out that someone's trying to steal his truck, he looks out the window and he says, "Look, some piece of garbage wrapped in human skin is trying to jack my load." That's a daily phrase. I think that's something you're going to use constantly. Imagine just being on a tube and then someone just like cuts in front of you to get out the door quicker than you, and you just say, "Oh, you piece of garbage wrapped in human skin. What are you fucking doing?" They wouldn't know what to do with themselves, would they? Like, what?
Yeah.
What did you? What? Oh, what now? I don't know. I mean, I'd love it if someone said it to me.
I'll use it
My
more
new best
often on
friend.
you.
Right. That's it, mate. So I've made it to 300. You're at 277. So it's clear who's winning that race. And the loser has to do the stitch up on the Christmas special.
Oh fuck! I need to catch up. What? I don't have as much time as you because I've recently started working. I've worked for the past month now, so
Yeah.
it's not like I can just sit at home watching films all the time. But
All right.
all right.
Well, I'm up my face in it.
Is it my turn yet?
Your turn for what?
To say what I've been watching.
Yes. Oh, sorry. What have you been watching, Nicole?
I've watched 2 TV shows. They couldn't be more opposite to each other. The last one I watched was Emily in Paris. The only reason why I kind of enjoyed that series was the whole social media marketing base, how it is in this TV show. Otherwise, it's pretty cheesy and corny and whatever. And the other one I watched was Ratched. The One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Nurse Ratched. They got her. Well, it's not her character, but I guess they got the character name from that movie and created this TV show. So about this guy who kills like 4 or 5 priests. It's pretty gory, but I quite enjoyed it. The first 2 episodes, I couldn't get into it until like 3 episodes in. They're the TV shows that I've watched.
How many episodes did you get through in total?
So Emily in Paris was 10, and they were half-an-hour episodes. And Ratched was 8 episodes, and they were about an hour.
Blimey, you could have watched like 7 films in that time.
Yeah, I know. I would have caught up to you by that point. But I think I watched 12 films, including the podcast films this week. So I watched both of the films that I chose for the podcast, which was Under the Arctic Sky and Kim Swims. Enola Holmes, that was all right. It was a bit... I think I would have enjoyed it if I was like a 10-year-old.
This is the Millie Bobby Brown film, isn't it?
That's
And
it.
it's a feature, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's got Henry Cavill as Sherlock Holmes. Did you what? Pardon?
Moving on.
Oh, Babe. You said Babe. What, Henry Cavill?
He's all right.
He's a fucking enormous man, isn't he?
Yeah.
This is a hunk of a human.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Henry Cavill a little bit more? You done with Cavill, are you? No more Cavill talk.
I've moved on. What did you want to ask me about?
Henry Cavill?
Yeah. Oh,
just about Henry Cavill.
Go on.
I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it because it's Sherlock Holmes, isn't it? And it's a new Netflix thing, and it seems like a new take on an old thing. And I'm just interested to see. I will probably never get around to watching it. Not my sort of thing, really. But was it different enough to the old Sherlock Holmes stuff, or what? Because it's more about Enola Holmes, right?
Yeah, because her mum disappears, and she's trying to figure out where her mum's gone, and then her 2 brothers come home. They're like, oh, you're not very ladylike, so we're going to send you to a prim and proper girls' school so you can find a husband, because that's what happened back in the day. It's all about the women's revolution, which I guess if for a younger audience watching this, it's quite good on that aspect. It was fine. As I said, if I was maybe 10 or 12, I think I would have enjoyed this film a lot more. If I had kids or like my friends' kids were over and they wanted to watch it, 100% would sit down and watch it with them. But yeah, it was all right.
More sort of targeted to a younger audience by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
All right, I definitely won't watch it, but it was worth that 2-minute conversation to deduce that I'm not watching it. Saved me 90 minutes.
No, I can't even stitch you up with it because I'm pretty sure it goes over 2 hours, but it's probably too good for you to watch. Let me double check. Yeah, it's just over the 2-hour mark.
I'll allow it.
Oh, you allow it? Okay,
I'll allow
good to know. Maybe other films that are just over the 2-hour mark.
Only that one. Only that one.
Pride and Prejudice. You're giving me grief. Which it was still under. I went onto YouTube and it was just under.
You're never going to let that go, are you?
I know. I watched the one that flew over the cuckoo's nest because of Ratched, the Rafa, the Breaker Uppers, Vicky Cristina Barcelona, The Beach, The Song of the Sea, Toast, and Dallas Buyers Club was the last film I watched last week.
Oh, blimey. You smashed them in. Dallas Buyers Club. I saw that on an aeroplane. That's Jared Leto's best film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it as good as Suicide Squad? I don't know. It's a tough choice.
Oh, God, no. Suicide Squad is not as good as Dallas Buyers Club.
Controversial opinion on the Twin Peaks podcast. Dallas Buyers Club is better than Suicide Squad.
Absolutely. Have you seen the one that flew over the cuckoo's nest?
Yeah, once, a long time ago. I remember it being very
Yeah.
good, but I don't remember an awful lot about it.
It's oh my God, the Shining guy. Oh fuck, what's his name again?
The Shining guy. Jack. It's Jack.
Jack Nicholson. Thank you very much.
It's the Nickel Master. It's the Nickelback. How did you forget about him?
I was just like, I can picture him. So he's committed some crimes, and instead of him going to jail, he's been sent to psychiatric, but they think he's sane enough that he can go to jail. But yeah, it was good. I do love a classic.
You do love a classic, yeah. I like a classic too. I like a classic sci-fi or a classic horror. Space Truckers I would regard as a classic.
Yeah.
I think that's a classic.
When did that come out? 80s?
1997, I think. Or 96.
That's quite young. Well, I guess Cuckoo Nest, I think that was either 70s or 80s.
70s, I think. I want to say like 76, Cuckoo's Nest. As a
I want to say, in my head, maybe 73. Let's see.
Alrighty.
Oh, in between 75. You're closer to it.
Yeah, I'm close. It's not really in between. Like you said, I'm closer, so I win the glory and a hat.
What did I say? If you go over, you lose. So technically, I'm closer.
Who says that? I've never heard that phrase in my life. If you go over, you lose.
On Nova. Nova 100.
What? What's that?
Radio station.
In Australia?
Yeah.
A radio station in Australia says that phrase that everyone knows. That I've never heard of.
Anyway.
I can't go
let's
over.
Move on. Yeah.
Oh, please. Can we please move on? Let's do it. Let's move on. Should we move on to section 2?
Yes, let's do that.
Alrighty, let's move on to section 2 then, and we're going to be talking about Waterworld and The Perfect Storm as part of our On the Water topic. And this topic was my fourth brain. That's the phrase.
Your fourth brain?
It's my fourth brain. Yeah.
Oh, fourth brain. Yeah, got it.
That's how brain works today, unfortunately. As I chose it, I'm going to do a little intro. Sometimes it's a bit of research, sometimes it's something else, and this time I didn't really know what I was going to talk about. Like, I sort of chose a topic, and then yesterday when I was sitting down to prepare the show, I thought, fuck, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about?
I was like, is he going to talk about Speedos and budgie smugglers and board shorts or something?
Well, if I would have thought of it, not board shorts, not short shorts, if I'd have thought of it, I definitely would have gone with Speedos. The history of Speedos. Oh, God. You think of anything worse? God. So
smugglers.
I thought I would do what we always do when we can't think of anything else to talk about and just do a little quiz.
Oh,
so
God.
It's a bit of fun.
Fail drastically.
It's a bit of fun. So films that are shot on the water or made around the water, they're kind of notoriously difficult to make. They're expensive. They're really difficult to shoot. You have all sorts of problems that you don't get on land, and they're just very, very costly. So I started to look at the costs of films. Obviously started with the two that we'll talk about later, Perfect Storm and Waterworld, but I started to look at budgets and costs of films and some of the other films that were shot on water and how much they cost. So what I'm going to do is I've got 8 films, and I'm going to give you the title. I'm going to give you the budget for that film. And then you've got to tell me whether that budget was higher or lower than the budget for Justice League. So I've got 8. Cool. So I'm going to give you the title. So the first one is Jaws. And the budget for
Okay.
Jaws was $7 million. Is that higher or lower than the budget for Justice League?
It's lower. It's got to be lower.
Correct.
Thank God.
The next one, The Perfect Storm, higher or lower than Justice League at 120 million?
It is higher. God, how much money did they spend? Oh, yeah, they would have because of bloody mustache, didn't they? Fucking
Yeah,
mustache.
Cavill's mustache. Right, I've just, as we're going through these, I've just noticed a massive flaw in my quiz plan, right? So
Yeah.
my initial, my, my initial 8 might be a lot less. So I'm just going to give you another
Okay.
one, right? So Master and Commander, the Russell Crowe film, that cost $150 million. Is that lower or higher than Justice League?
Lower.
Correct.
Yes, good.
Right. Budget for Waterworld was 175 million. Is that lower or higher than the budget for Justice League?
I'm going to say higher.
Incorrect.
Wow. Fucking hell.
Incorrect.
What? Bloody Cavill's mustache was super expensive.
No, I know. It's that facial hair. So it's just glorious facial hair. It just takes so long to remove. Like diamond tweezers. Titanic. This is the last one I'm going to give you, right? Titanic. The budget for Titanic was $200 million. And is that less or more than Justice League?
I'm going to say it's less.
Incorrect. Justice League cost more than $200 million to make.
Yeah. So I was right.
No, you said less. Oh, so you said less. You said less, didn't you? If you said less, then yeah, that's right.
I did.
Well, that does change things because out of 5, you got 3 right.
Not too bad.
That's not too bad. Now, do you want to know what the budget for Justice League was?
Yeah, why not?
It's exactly 300 million.
Oh, wow. Fuck me.
300 million
How much did they profit off that film?
on Justice League. You could buy a fucking country for that.
You would be able to easily travel around Europe.
If you had $300 million, it's a pretty safe bet that you could afford a round Europe backpacking trip. Yes,
more than once. I probably would go to Antarctica first because will be the most expensive destination.
Well, you should do it. Maybe try and get on a trip and then take a laptop with you so you can watch Justice League.
We'll do the podcast in Antarctica.
Yeah, I can't see any issues with that.
Uploading it might have some issues.
My laptop would be frozen shut. It won't even open. It won't even be able to get it open to record.
Let's talk about our film.
Yes, let's move on to our films. So we're talking about Waterworld and The Perfect Storm. I've written down. I started with The Perfect Storm, and I've kind of made a few notes, and my page is open on The Perfect Storm. So, shall we start with that one? Otherwise, there'll just be a paper ruffling noise that I'll have to edit out. So, The Perfect Storm, it came out in 2000. It's 130 minutes long, and it was directed by Wolfgang Petersen. The tagline on Letterboxd is "The storm is coming," and the synopsis reads: in October 1991, a confluence of weather conditions combined to form a killer storm in the North Atlantic. Caught in a storm was the sword fishing boat Andrea Gale. Magnificent foreshadowing and anticipation fill this true life drama, while minute details of the fishing boats, their gear and the weather are juxtaposed with the sea adventure. That was a terrible reading, but I'm not doing it again. So it stars George Clooney as Captain Billy Tyne, a very curmudgeon-y boat fishing captain. He's in love with the sea. He fucking loves the sea, doesn't he? Anyway, he's dead anyway.
Yeah.
Spoilers. I just spoiled the film. I feel bad now.
He dies. Who knows if the other guys die? We'll reveal that a bit later.
We'll reveal that at the end. So George Clooney as Captain Billy Tyne, Mark Wahlberg as Bobby Shatford, Diane Lane as Christina Cotter, John C. Reilly as Dale Murphy, but they call him Merp in the film because they've all got their little nicknames, haven't they? They love a nickname. William Fichtner's in it, and he's called Sully. Oh, and I've got another one, Bob Gunton, and he plays a dude on a boat with his family who doesn't want to leave his boat. But I'm sure we'll get onto him, or maybe we won't. I don't know. So Wolfgang Peterson, he's directed a few other films that I sort of recognise. I know Enemy Mine in the 80s. That's an old favourite of mine. Outbreak he did, which is about killer virus. I don't know if you've seen that, the monkey virus plague
No.
from the 90s. Air Force One and Das Boot. We spoke about the budget in our little quiz. The budget was 120 million for this film. And you can see why. It's a water-based film, difficult to make. Box office was 329 million. So it did really well. And it was nominated for a couple of Oscars, Best Visual Effects and Best Sound Mixing. And I have to say, the visual effects might be the best part of this film for me.
Storyline, not so much.
No, I mean, yeah, I suppose we should talk about the storyline now, really, shouldn't we? Because we get it over in seconds. Fishing boat goes into storm. Well, I mean, the thing is that struck me about this film is that I didn't realise until the end that it was based on a book. I obviously knew it was based on a true story, or about a group of fishermen, these group of guys that went out on a boat and they never returned. I didn't find that out till the end. Oh, spoilers! We just spoiled it. We didn't wait till the end. They never returned. They all died. They all died at sea. And it's based on a book of the same name, which came out 3 years before this film in 1997. But what I was wondering is that it's all fiction, isn't it? It must all be fiction, because if they all died at sea, then all of the stories that happened on the boat, like John C. Reilly falling in the water, and like the beef that they had between Sully and Merp and all of that stuff, that must all be made up.
I wonder, they do have contact with other aerial stations around their area, so maybe part of it might. When was it? 1991. So telecommunications wasn't as good as it is today. Yeah, I guess they make those stories up anyway to make it more dramatic and interesting to the visual eye.
Yeah, you've always got to have some artistic license in these true stories to make it compelling and gripping and stuff. But it just struck me like that the all of it, like all of the most, I guess the most used term, most interesting parts to me on the boat was the argument between Sully and Merp. It was that I wanted to see more of that. And then when he went into the water and all of that stuff, and you had a good chunk of build up to the storm and all of that into character stuff. I just thought, well, it's all fiction, and I don't mind it. I'm not criticizing it for that at all.
Yeah,
I just I just have to remember that whenever I watch a film that says based on a true story, it's like, well, how much? What's true here? Like they left on a boat and they didn't return, but like you say, they were in contact with other vessels and rescue pilots and stuff like that. So it's possible that they could have pieced together some information and put together a picture based on these small nuggets of information, I guess.
I saw on IMDb in real life, actually, the Andrea Gale caught a fair bit of fish, but they still went out to sea. I guess they were just like, oh, let's catch a bit more fish. So I guess them saying that they didn't catch fish and it was disappointing and they want to make more money, that's like kind of making it more appealing to viewers, maybe. I don't know. Was it necessary?
Yeah, I think it was necessary in this case, to be honest, because he needed a reason to go back out on the water. If the reason was just, I just really fucking love being on the water, and
I love the fish.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think you have to introduce something like that. Apart from the visual effects that I thought were great in this film, the cast was really good, with the exception of Mark Wahlberg. But I think John C. Reilly was honestly the best character in this film. He had the son, Merp. He had the son and the ex-wife, and he's also the one that had the beef with Bill Fichtner's character, Sully. And I think he had the most to do. Like, he had the most interesting stuff going on, I think. And Mark Wahlberg just really liked his girlfriend. This film goes for an hour and hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes until the storm hits. So you've got a big old chunk there, and you see various little stories dipping in and out of them catching fish. Oh, it's going great. We're catching loads of fish. Oh, no, now we're not catching any fish. But now we're catching fish again. But now we're not catching any more fish again. But now the ice machine's broken and we've got to go through the storm so the fish don't melt. So you had all of these various little bits of drama, which I really liked. And I was starting to get bored thinking, when's the storm going to kick in? But when the storm does kick in, it does go for like 45 minutes and it's pretty relentless. So, and it's tiring. It's exhausting. So, I mean, I'm glad that they had that build up, because if it was just constant that, I would have been fucking knackered by the end of it. What did you think of this one?
It's funny because I remember watching this. I must have watched this when I was a teenager, and I loved it when back in the day. Yeah, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did ages ago. It was fine. It wasn't, but it just didn't. I wasn't intrigued the whole way, and it did go a bit longer, a bit too long. I think it could have been cut down slightly.
Yeah, agreed. I'd like to have seen some of those other side sequences, like the other boats and stuff like that. Maybe cut some of that stuff down. The rescue, although I did enjoy the pilot, the helicopter rescue stuff where they're trying to refuel with the plane and stuff. I did enjoy all of that. It just maybe would have been a slightly different film and maybe more enjoyable for me if they would have cut all of that stuff down and had a bit more character stuff on the boat with the guys.
What did you think of the fish in this film?
What did I think of the fish? I thought their performances were great. Some really strong performances. I think one of the fish, actually, I think it was the third fish, was nominated for an Oscar for Fish of the Year. Best on-screen fishy performance. Yeah, great. What did you think of them?
No, I was going to make a comment that they were all artificial. They didn't use actual real fish because Wolfgang is all about the environment. He didn't want to use real fish on the film, which you can tell.
Well, you say that. I mean, I didn't have a clue. It didn't even occur to me. In fact, I was watching the film thinking, oh, this looks so realistic. This must be real. And I had a little thought like, oh, that's a shame.
All artificial, all fake.
Fakey fish.
All fakey
they were
fish.
Artificial fish.
Artificial.
If you have some spare money and you would like to open a marine fish shop, there you go. You've got a name for it. Artificial.
That's what I'll do with my 300 million as well. Get an artificial fish.
Please buy
place.
Please buy a tropical and or stroke marine fish shop and call it artificial. But I tell you, my contribution would be one of those little plastic scuba divers that you put in a fish tank. But Perfect Storm. I thought it was all right. It was all about the visual effects for me. I would like to have seen this on the big screen, but for me, it'd be like a one and done. I certainly don't think I'll probably watch this film again. But I appreciated more the effects and the stunt work and stuff like that. 7 out of 10 is a generous kind of score for me. Yeah. What do you think?
I'm gonna be the harsh one in this. I'm gonna give it. Well, it's not that much off. I'm gonna give it 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's only half a point off. It's pretty close.
Yeah.
We're pretty much in the same place, I think. It was pretty good. It was enjoyable enough, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. So I think that's probably why I'm slightly higher than you, is that I was expecting it to not be as that great, and I got a little bit more from it than I was expecting. So expectations play a big part in films for me. I've got a couple of little minor facts for you, right? So it wasn't shot on the water at all. We said it was green screen. There may have been some other, establishing shots or whatever, but for the most part, the main cast were just locked in a tank for 2.5, 3 months on a soundstage. Apparently, they all threw up. They were all throwing up and being sick and vomiting over each other, except from Bill Fichtner, who says that he didn't throw up once. Yeah, but it was pretty grueling. Apparently, pretty hard. Pretty harsh going, because I've been thrown about and water splashed on. It's stressful, wasn't it? Yeah, I hope the catering was good to make up for it. Okay, so let's move on to Waterworld then. So Waterworld came out in 1995. It was directed by Kevin Reynolds, and the theatrical release is 135 minutes long, right? But I watched a different version. I watched a 3-hour version that comes on a Blu-ray.
Interesting.
Yeah. Did you watch it on Netflix?
I did, but I read that the 3-hour version is a better cut than the shorter version that I watched. Would
Okay.
you agree or not?
Well, I haven't seen the shorter cut for a while, so I don't remember, to be honest. But there's one particular scene where I could see how that's true. Yes, so maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, the answer to your question is yes, in a very long-winded way.
cool.
So the tagline is, "Beyond the horizon lies the secret to a new beginning," and the synopsis reads, "In a futuristic world where the polar ice caps have melted and made Earth a liquid planet, a beautiful barmaid rescues a mutant seafarer from a floating island prison. They escape, along with her young child, Enola, and sail off aboard his ship." So the budget was 175 million, or 235 including marketing, and the worldwide box office was 264 million. It stars Kevin Costner and Jean Triplehorn as Helen, Dennis Hopper as Deacon, and Tina Majorino as Enola.
Enola, another
Eno-
Enola.
Enola. So I saw Waterworld at the cinema in 1995. I saw it with my parents. I remember quite clearly the cinema I saw it at. Actually, funnily enough, the cinema that I saw it at closed not long after I saw Waterworld and was changed into a theatre about 3 or 4 years afterwards. And I actually did my work experience there, and I did the lighting for Bugsy Malone. So connections.
That's awesome, mate.
Yes, little
Quality.
personal story there. Better than my poo story, isn't it?
No, I really enjoyed that poo story. I do like that poo story.
Good. The very start of the film then. So they got that voiceover guy from the 90s who, does the voiceover for the trailers, and, in a brave new world. They got that guy at the start because the polar ice caps have melted and it's flooded the entire world. I suppose that's the first conceit of the film, isn't it? It's if the ice caps melt, it's not going to cover the entire planet. It's only going to raise water levels by about 30 feet, which would still be a drag, but it ain't going to cover the world, and we're not going to need to recycle our urine. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll just do that for fun.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the first scene in the film, isn't it? Where we see Kevin Costner.
Yes.
Yeah, he's drinking his urine, and he's got this like mechanical thing that he pumps. He weighs in, and then it comes out. He turns it into water. But apparently, when it was first conceived in the original screenplay, the writer had envisioned that as being a more organic piece. Like he thought like you'd have a kidney in there and loads of like tubes. I was going to say fallopian tube, but I don't think that's what I meant to say at all. Fallopian tube, I think, might be something completely different. What's a fallopian tube? It's probably near the pancreas. Anyway,
Sure.
so the writer the writer had a different idea for that. He wanted it to be a bit more organic, and it feels like the film was a bit different to how he first sort of saw it. As we discussed last week, it was meant to be Mad Max on water, and it was exactly Mad Max on water. That's exactly the film we got.
Great.
It just would have been a little bit different if his vision had seen through to the end of the production. But basically, Kevin Costner's just this drifter, isn't he? He's a drifter, and he's got this trimaran, this awesome sailboat, and no one's seen anything like it. And he is drifting around, salvaging as much as he can, going for a little swim, growing these apples and eating fucking tomatoes. And he comes across this atoll, like this community, floaty village. We call it a floaty village. The floaty village, the village what floats, and they've built a miniature sort of town on boats, and they've tied them all together, and it's a really good thing. And that was obviously a real set. They built and paid for that whole set to be built, which was the size of a football field, apparently.
Was that done in Hawaii? They shot this all in Hawaii, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, we could just score it and then just talk about the making of the film. I mean, let's get into that. What did you? I'm curious to know what you think, because I really like this film. I enjoy it, but I can see its flaws.
It was fine. I didn't overly love it. It was a bit of fun. This is a weird thing to enjoy about this film. I do kind of like their costume design. In my eyes, I saw that as like it was just rubbish that they kind of sewn together. Maybe that's an incorrect thing to say.
No, it's exactly right. That's exactly what they wanted. They were. That was the idea. They could only wear the clothes that they'd salvaged from other boats or vessels or whatever. So they had parts of fish and beer can, the tiny plastic beer can things that I don't know what they're called, but they had those sorts of things.
I've got one comment. What was with the 007 soundtrack in this? Yeah, it was after his eye had been removed, and
Yeah.
then they were like on a mission to plow forward, and then all of a sudden there's like dun, 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 like that typical Bond music. I was like, oh,
Was
that's
there?
that. I think, yeah, and that pulled me off a little bit with this film. I was just like,
Oh,
oh,
I missed
copying
that.
music from a different film.
But you might be onto something there, mate, because this film was notoriously difficult to make, like throughout. But one
Yeah,
of the things is they didn't have long to do the score, and Hans Zimmer had actually offered some of his library, some of his samples, to try and get it over the line. So there may have been some. I mean, I don't think he's ever scored Bond, but there may have been some other samples used from other films that you might have picked up on. But I really enjoyed the score for this. I think it's it's always stuck in
it
my
was
head.
just that track. It was
Yeah,
just that track that
that
I
one
just
piece.
stood out for me. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Bond score on
Yeah.
Waterworld, and it was in the middle. It wasn't like at a really dramatic point of the movie.
I got a lot of time for this film. Like you mentioned the costumes, and for me, yeah, it's about the costumes, it's about the sets, it's about the stunts. It's a proper popcorn film. I actually have seen it at cinema while eating popcorn, and I can assure you it's a popcorn film.
If I did the set, if I was part of set design for this film, I would have had a lot of fun. I reckon it would have been so much fun.
It looked like the best job to work on
Yeah,
from just from what they did to create this film. Like the lengths
yeah,
that they went to. We mentioned that they shot in Hawaii, so they had to get everything from where they, so they bought the boats. So they bought two trimarans for
hmm
Kevin Costner. They bought two of those because one as a backup. They cost £1 million each, but they had to get them. I think they bought them somewhere in Europe, but they had to get them from there to Hawaii. So they disassembled them and they packed them away into a 747. But the place in Hawaii, Kona, I think it was called, their runway wasn't big enough to receive a 747 aircraft.
Holy shit!
I know. So what they had to do is they had to extend the runway by 1/4 of a mile, so they could land the 747.
Interesting.
It's just, yeah, so the boat, between the boat and the atoll, just huge sets. And apparently the villain's boat was a lot of green screen stuff. They didn't actually have a physical boat for that, because that was a big old thing as well, wasn't it? That big old liner thing they had. So yeah, I enjoy it for what it is. I enjoy the sets and the stunts and all of that stuff, and I can just sit down and have a good old time of it. But also, like, I am watching the 3-hour cut, which, as you said, it seems that people prefer the 3-hour cut to the theatrical cut.
Yeah, I read that the 3-hour cut was a lot better, so maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it as much. Maybe it was too much was cut out with the
Yeah.
shorter version.
I haven't really done any research to find out what was in the 3-hour cut, but it's a big difference, 45 minutes difference or 40 minutes difference. So how does it end? How does your one end, the shorter version, 2 hours 15? What was the very end scene?
They arrive to land. Enola doesn't want him to leave, but he does, and he sets back off into the sea, and that's the end.
In the Ulysses cut, there's about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes on dry land at the end. And it sounds like it's kind of similar, but the main key difference being that we find out that they're actually on Everest, being the highest point in the world.
That's interesting because the map tattoo on Enola's back, which is a Chinese traditional characters, the actual coordinates were exactly for Mount Everest.
Oh, there you go.
That's fascinating.
That was always part of the script. So for whatever reason, I don't know why, it was cut out, but it was always intended to end on that bombshell. That was meant to be their Planet of the Apes moment, apparently. That's how they describe it in the documentary. And it does make sense. I mean, why would you cut that out? That does seem like a pretty... And I seem to remember as well, when I saw this at cinema, I seem to remember my dad and I having a discussion about it probably being somewhere like Everest, because it would be the highest point. So maybe it's not 100% necessary to explicitly state it, but I do think it makes it slightly more enjoyable, because it's a popcorn film. You don't need any unanswered questions. You just need it all wrapped up nicely in a little bow, and there you go. Enjoy some jet skis and some explosions. I mean, just going back to the score, I actually wrote down a little note here. It just says swashbuckly score. So clearly I was enjoying it. I thought it was great. Yeah. Felt like Errol Flynn. I really enjoy it. It's an 8.5 out of 10 for me, just because of
Wow.
it's probably more like an 8 realistically, but because I rewatch it so often, I
It's a
can't give it
classic for you.
it's a classic for me. I can't give it a 9 because it's not a 9 out of 10. It's just
No,
not. But I really watch
agree.
it so much that it's in between that 8 and a 9 for me. And Dennis Hopper as a villain, and all of the production stories behind it, I find it a really enjoyable film to watch.
Kevin Costner put a fair bit of money into this film as well. I think he put like 23 mil into
Did
it.
he?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that they all went for it. They were all trying to make. I guess that's the same with all films, right? Everyone wants to make a good film. No one wants to make a terrible film.
Yeah, agreed.
It's just like what went into it. All of the work, extending the runway, like you say, Costner putting his own money. He trained for months on a trimaran to get, and I just think that what we got, it's just its own thing. There's nothing quite like it for me, and it's just a classic, and I can just rewatch it. So 8.5. What about you?
I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
That's not bad for Waterworld, the theatrical cut. You should watch the Ulysses cut, 3-hour one.
I wonder where I could get that.
Well, when you come back to the UK, you can borrow my Blu-ray of it. How about that? And we can
Brilliant.
dedicate
That's
3 hours to watching it. Maybe next time we can do Waterworld again, and I'll watch the theatrical cut and you watch the 3-hour cut. So, on the water films, done. We need to move on to the next part where we're picking our films for next week. And as I chose the theme for this week, the choice is now going back to you, and
me.
you need to let us know what you're going to choose, and we'll then pick our films from there. So, what theme are you going for?
I am choosing friendships.
Friends.
Friends for life.
Yeah, I mean, you said this to me on WhatsApp, and I responded with 3 vomity face emojis. So that pretty much tells you what my thoughts are on that.
When you first, and then I gave you so many like different options for like. There's so many friendship films and quite good films, but yeah,
There are.
I guess most films are about friendship. So
The chooser of the topic shall lay their
Go first.
choices down. Yeah, they'll go first.
Short and sweet. Okay. I know which one out of mine you're going to get rid of. Just saying. Okay. Number 1 is Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Bueller.
Number 2 is Gran Torino.
The Sausage King of Chicago. Sorry. So was that Gran Torino? Gran Torino.
Yeah, Gran Torino. Clint Eastwood.
East Clintwood.
Clint.
Oh, be careful how you say that.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that. I was like, oh.
Don't want to get tongue twisted there, do you?
Say Clint 10 times in a row and see how it sounds.
Clink,
And
clink, 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 clink.
And my final pick is Frozen.
Frozen.
Yeah. It's not something that I would pick, but it's a bit of a personal reason why I've put that on this week. So
Okay, are you ready for mine? I'm going to give you mine.
yes.
Okay, my first pick, and very surprised that you didn't pick this, but I'm going to go for Booksmart.
Oh, I have that in my honorable mentions.
We can't honorably mention it now because I've already properly mentioned it. Right, my second pick, and they may or may not be friends. I don't know, but it's a group of women that do a thing together. So I'm assuming that they're mates. And it's called Hustlers. Mates what do? Hustling.
Yep.
And my last pick is The Reef.
Oh. Yeah, I guess it is friendship, isn't it?
Mates in the water plus sharks.
Are you seriously going to put this film on until we choose it?
No, honestly, that's not what I was planning to do. But I just came across it again, and I was like, "All right, will it be funny if I put it on again?" So maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. It's the third week in a row now. I'm sure it'll get on again.
Yeah.
And actually, it's a film that's been picked most for any of our podcasts. There's only a couple I've picked more than once. The Reef's now three times.
8. Heat.
Heat, I've chosen a couple of times, yeah. So we've picked all of our films now. And to recap, you chose Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Gran Torino, and Frozen. And I chose Booksmart, Hustlers, and The Reef. I mean, do you want me to pretend that I'm going to not knock out Frozen?
All the
I
kids that
know.
listen to this podcast, mate, they would love to hear a review on Frozen.
I ain't watching Frozen, mate. I sort of feel a little bit bad about it, but
No, it's fine.
Albert watched Frozen 2 some months back, so if you really want to hear a Frozen 2 review, go back and listen to that. I wouldn't advise children do that, though.
No, yeah, definitely not. I might put myself in misery and actually watch Frozen 1 and 2. Okay, out of yours, I'm gonna get rid of Reef just to piss you off.
It's all right. It's all right. Like we said before, like I can always just watch this film in real life. You know, there's nothing.
You could. Or you could just put it on 20 times until I do decide that the Reef we should review it.
Which is probably the route that I'll go down.
Yeah.
So to recap, then we've got left Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Gran Torino, and I've got left Booksmart and Hustlers. What's Ferris Bueller about, mate? Never heard of it.
What a crock of shit.
I'm not European. I don't plan on being European. So who gives a crap if they're socialists?
Okay. I'm not gonna. Because originally I had The Breakfast Club. I prefer to watch Ferris Bueller over Breakfast Club.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Ferris Bueller. So he just decides to take the day off with his mates.
They take the Cameron's dad's car, don't they? They drive to Chicago and they do a little. They're in a carnival and they go to the art gallery, and it's just about bunking off for a day. And it's a bit of a classic one for this, me mate. I do like me a bit of Ferris Bueller.
Me too.
Gran Torino. This is East Clintwood. Is this the one where he's a grouchy old racist?
I believe so. Yeah. Have you never watched Gran Torino?
No, I've never actually seen Gran Torino. I've just heard about it.
Oh my god, it's a fantastic film. Tagline is "Ever come across somebody you shouldn't have messed with?" And synopsis is: a widower, Walt Kowalski, is a grumpy, prejudiced, tough-minded, unhappy old Korean War veteran who can't get along with either his kids or his neighbors. His prized possession of a 1972 Gran Torino he keeps in mint condition when his neighbor, Tao, a young teenager under pressure from his gang member cousin, tries to steal his Gran Torino. Walt sets out a reform of youth and takes steps to protect Theo and his family from the gangs that invest their neighborhood.
All right. Clint Eastwood loves his car, hates brown people. I think I've got enough information at the moment. Do you want to know all about Booksmart, that film that you've never heard of or seen before?
Yeah, go for it. I mean, the audience might not know what Booksmart is.
That's true. They might not. So Booksmart. Do you know what? I didn't even know that this was directed by Olivia Wilde until very recently, but it was. It came out in 2019. It's 102 minutes long. Their tagline is "Getting straight A's, giving 0 F's." Synopsis: two academic teenage superstars realise on the eve of their high school graduation that they should have worked less and played more. Determined to never fall short of their peers, the girls set out on a mission to cram 4 years of fun into one night. So they've been working their bollocks off all through school. Everyone else is going to get through, no problems. And they've all had a good time. And they're thinking, shit, well, we've got to have a great night to make up for it.
Have a bit of fun.
Yeah. I remember one of them there is a bit reluctant to go out on this night, and they pull a Malala. So that happens.
You pull a Malala, you have to do it.
Yeah, Malala. But it's great. And the two leads in this, I've got to know Caitlin Dever as Amy and Beanie Feldstein as Molly. It's all about them, really. They're two characters. It's very, very funny. Lisa Kudrow and Will Forte, not in it while they're not in it an awful lot. They're good as well as the parents. It's one of those that caught me off guard, really. I wasn't expecting too much from it, but I found it pretty fucking hilarious. And my next choice was Hustlers, and also a film what came out in 2019. And it was directed by Lorene Scafaria. Nailed it. Short synopsis. A crew of savvy former strip club employees band together to turn the tables on their Wall Street clients. Cast: Constance Wu, Jennifer Lopez, Julia Stiles, Kiki Palmer.
Cardi B's in it. Very briefly. What did you say?
I'm just looking on Letterboxd, and just the first review that I've read just says feminist, lesbian, strippers, drugging and robbing Wall Street criminal dudes while giving Oscar-worthy performances is my favourite film genre. I've wanted to watch this for a while, mate, truth be told, but I just haven't got around to it for whatever reason. I think we've waffled on long enough. I think we can just probably knock it down to one film each now.
You go first, because I'm not 100% sure which one I'm going to choose.
I know where I'm going to go. It's pretty obvious. I tend to go towards the lighter films. I'm going for Ferris Bueller, and I'm knocking out Gran Torino. I'm knocking out Gran Torino.
I think because you haven't seen Hustlers, I'm going to go Hustlers.
You're going to keep Hustlers?
Yeah. I'm intrigued to see what you think of this film.
Next episode, then, will be our friendship double bill, and we'll be talking about Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Hustlers.
Don't ask me what I'm going to do for the information bit.
I did wonder that.
I thought, should I test our friendship and see how well you know me? But that's just cruel.
Oh, let's make it all about you, Nicole. Let's make it all about you. Oh, all right. Ferris Bueller and Hustlers. You've got to come up with a topic, so best of luck with that. Alrighty. Honourable mentions.
Oh yeah, of course. There's so many. If you go classic.
Did you want to finish your Werther's original before you get on to
Original?
honourable mentions? Yeah, you were eating a sweet, aren't you? What is that? Boiled sweet?
I was having chili chocolate.
Everyone stop, continue listening, but let's just wait for Nicole to finish her food. Everyone stop. If you're driving, stop driving, pull over to the side of the road. If you're running, stop running. If you're working, stop working. Just all, everyone freeze, and let's wait for Nicole to finish her chili nuts.
Movie drone. Who was it? Steve. Steve was very appreciative of us not eating on the podcast, and now I've just started having a snack.
He's gonna fucking hate you.
No, I'm gonna be bloody put on the wall again. Wall of shame for eating food.
We can only hope.
Please, God.
Honourable mentions.
Yes. Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, Stand By Me. But the thing was, Stand By Me, I don't think it was on any streaming service. Because that's probably one of my favourite classic films. Have you seen it? Have you seen it before?
Yeah, a long time ago when I was like, I don't know, before 10 was probably the last time I saw it. I always found it a bit depressing.
It is quite depressing.
Yeah.
So I'll just say those for now.
I've got a couple. So first one is Bill and Ted, Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey.
I've never seen Bill and Ted.
I'm not surprised. 21 Jump Street, their mates are also policemen. Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, that would have been on my honourable mentions. I'm actually surprised you didn't put that on the list.
Yeah, I only didn't put it on because we did a Jim Carrey double a few episodes ago, a couple of months ago. So I've got another Jim Carrey one here, The Cable Guy, because it's kind of a black comedy about Jim Carrey who really wants to be mates with Matthew Broderick. Guest House Paradiso, which is the movie version of Bottom, which was a British sitcom in the 90s, which is very stupid, but I find it fucking hilarious. It's just slapstick stuff. People vomiting on each other and all that sort of thing. It's great. Airheads, rock musicians take over a radio station with terrorist water pistol guns with chili sauce in. I've got loads, mate. I'm not even halfway through yet. I also had Wayne's World, Dodgeball. I recently bought it on Blu-ray, but it's not available on streaming, so I couldn't pick it. Hot Fuzz. You watched that last week, didn't you? Hot Fuzz.
I did. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Oh, here we go. Star Trek 2. Also, I had Ferris Bueller, in case you didn't pick it. The Blues Brothers, and my last one is Rounders. Let's
hear your Stitch Up review.
Let's move on to the final section, number 3, which is called Stitch Up, where one of us has to watch a terrible film based on the results of a poll that we announced in the last episode. And in the last one, I lost the poll, and I had to watch Fateful Findings, which is a Neil Breen film. So, unfortunately...
Please tell me you watched this film. Oh, fuck off.
It wasn't available, mate. I even just did a general Google search just to see if anywhere streamed it. No, nothing. Not a sausage. Nowhere. Nowhere to be found. So our backup plan is that we watch the other film. Honestly, I wish I'd watched Fateful Findings. I
Oh, really?
I wanted to watch it, and yeah, I've recently been sent a few other videos of some of his work, and it looks like the room level's glorious. So I'm desperate to see it, and I was kind of gutted because Zombievers, it does sort of sound like something I might enjoy.
But it's not.
No. All right, so Zombievers 2014. It was directed by Jordan Rubin. It's an hour and 21 minutes long. The best thing about this film is that it's short. So the very first scene, it's got a comedian in it, what is called Bill Burr. And he's quite a funny comedian. I quite like a bit of Bill Burr. But basically, he's just driving in this truck, and what happens is this deer appears out of nowhere, and he hits the deer, and a barrel of toxic wastes falls out of his truck and into the river and starts to pollute the local ecosystem. And obviously it makes its way to the beavers. Bill Burr's spilt this toxic waste, and then these three women are travelling to this cabin, and they're going to have a little weekend sort of floating around on a little raft in the river and stuff. But obviously the beavers interrupt that because zombie beavers. And one of the women inexplicably just loses her bikini top, so she's just walking around with her boobs out. The best thing about this film is the amount of times they say beaver.
Did you count it?
No, I got about half an hour in, and I realised I should have been doing a beaver count really. Yeah, but I wrote down some of the phrasing that they used around the word beaver. So I want to start with, where are the beavers? It moves on to, there was a beaver. You wanted to find a beaver. We are all looking for beavers. Why did the beaver cross the road? Can we stop with the beaver jokes? There might be more beavers. Those things out there, they are not beavers. This is my favourite bit of dialogue in the whole film. We can't turn on each other now. That's what the beavers would want. I found that very funny. So the beavers trap him in this house. The beavers cut the telephone lines because they're clever zombie beavers. And that's it, mate. They have to get out of the house. And they don't. They all die. The puppets are not very good in this, unfortunately. They do look a little bit like a 90s kids show that was on CITV. It's very sort of Bodger and Badger-esque. Not great, not much fun. It bubbled along quickly. Well, it didn't actually, to be fair. It was a very short film. So it had a short running time. It didn't bubble along quickly. It took me about 2.5 hours to finish this film because I kept pausing it.
Wow.
One, to make notes, and then two, just because anything else that was happening on my telephone was just infinitely more interesting than what was going on the screen. So I just, any sort of escape that I could dig my fingers into, I did. I went for that opportunity, mate, because it was not a very fun film to watch. It was a bit dull and a bit boring. And I'm going to give it to just the two Justice Leagues for being a film that was made. Actually, funny, the worst thing about this film was that it was made, but also that's why it gets 2 stars. Don't watch Zombievers, mate.
Yeah, I really wanted to hear a review on Fateful Findings. I'll just have to go to some garage sale and hope that someone's got it on DVD and send it.
You imagine you go to a garage sale. By the way, it's garage. We say garage.
Garage.
Yeah. We say
Garage.
data as well, not data.
Data.
Potato. So yeah, I mean, if I went to a garage sale and I found a copy of Fateful Findings on DVD, I mean, that would be fate. There would be no other way to explain that.
Let's make a promise. If one of us finds this film, we're both going to watch it together and just fucking review it on the podcast.
All right.
Please tell us about the poll, Dan.
Alrighty, so the poll, I put the poll on yesterday, and most vertical primate for you versus zombies for me. We had 9 votes in total. It was even. It got even. It got to 3 all at one point, and then my mum voted for me to watch Zombies. What
is your mum on Instagram? I need to follow her.
No, so I need to have a discussion with my mother. And then someone else voted, and it went to 4 all. All right, but there is a loser. The deciding vote, and I'm going to call her out on this because she screwed me over. It was Rosie from Gore Press. She voted for me to watch.
Yes, thank you, Rosie. I probably woke up my parents right now. It's almost midnight here. Yes. Oh, good. Cheers for that.
Yeah, so Rosie was a deciding vote, and she voted for me to watch Zombies, so I'll be watching Zombies. So 2 weeks in a row, Zombievers, then Zombies. Great. I'm just disappointed that no one's going to be watching Most Vertical Primate. If I can't find Zombies, I might have to.
Oh, mate, it is on streaming service. I triple checked.
All right.
And the film that I'm choosing for you this week is definitely on streaming service.
All right. Well, as we've approached that subject, why don't we go for it? Because it's your turn to choose first. It definitely is your turn to choose first.
I watched this horrible film this week. I tend to, and spoiler alert, it is a romantic film.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
But it's called Romance on the Menu.
Fuck off.
Oh. I gave it 1 star on Letterboxd.
Man, what owns restaurant entices woman with a flavoursome menu.
I won't go into detail because I want to make sure you actually watch this film.
I might not lose. I'm choosing a film for you. What is called Birdemic.
I've got this on my list for you. Oh, brilliant!
Well, thou shall now have to remove that film from said Letterboxd Stitchy Uppy list because Dan has gotten to it first. Romance on the Menu for me versus Birdemic for you. It's your turn to put on a poll.
Mm-hmm. I'll put it on my Instagram.
What Instagram is that, Nicole? Where can we find this place to vote?
I will probably put the poll on my Chica Nika Instagram. Where can we find you, Dan?
Oh, I'm on the Instagram also at flick.face, but we've got our own page, which you mentioned earlier, which is at Twin Peaks Pod at Instagram or on Instagram. What do the children say? I don't know. Who cares? It's on the internet, and we post things about our episodes and stuff. And so if you listen to the show, please go and follow that page, and it'd be great. We'll give you a follow back, maybe, if you're not a psychopath. And if you want to email the show, you can email us at twinpixpod@gmail.com. Let us have any ideas for themes or movie picks that you want to go for. Do you know what? We stopped everyone from getting on with their day when you were eating your chili chocolate sweets, and we never said to carry on. So they're probably all still standing still or at the side of the road. So please, carry on. Please carry on. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Bloody hell.
But we should just say au revoir to Mr. Norris, shouldn't we? I guess that's the only thing left to do.
Farewell, Norris.
Farewell, Mr. Norris. Yeah, and we'll catch up with you next week, sir.
Thanks for listening.